One day, reporter Cynthia Crawford conducts an interview with Peter on the history of the Ghostbusters. It was during this interview that Cynthia asked why the Ghostbusters have Slimer, a ghost, live with them. Peter then tells a story that involved the Ghostbusters facing one of their hardest ghosts ever, themselves. It all started after their battle with Gozer. Their firehouse was left in ruins. The only thing left to do was to rebuild. The first thing they needed to do was to get rid of their old ectoplasmic covered uniforms. Peter was left in charge of burning the old uniforms, though he fails to do the job. He just leaves them in a box and stored it in the back of the new containment unit, vowing to take care of it later. Like most procrastinators, he never gets around to doing it. There was just one small crack in the containment unit that they failed to notice upon their inspection. Over time, some ectoplasm escaped from the containment unit and got absorbed in the uniforms. When it absorbed enough, the uniforms literally got up one night, turning them into the Spectral Ghostbusters. The Spectral Ghostbusters are similar to the People Busters from a later episode. Both are ghost versions of the Ghostbusters. Unlike the People Busters, there's actually a spectral Ghostbuster Winston. The episode also never refers to them as the Spectral Ghostbusters. That name seems to have been given to them later. They look exactly like their human counterparts. The big difference is that they're translucent and green. They wear the original uniforms from the movie with some marshmallow goo on them. They have no pupils, and it looks like they have steam coming out of their ears, eyes, and heads. Each one also has a proton pack that fires deadly ectoplasm that imitates the captured streams. They also have the Ghostbusters' voices, only they're a bit echoey. The only one who didn't have any dialogue is Spectral Ghostbuster Ray, though we do hear him scream. Egon explains that the reason why they look like the Ghostbusters is because whenever you touch something, you leave a mental imprint, like a fingerprint. The goal of the Spectral Ghostbusters is to eliminate the real Ghostbusters. In other words, they're trying to kill them. The Spectral Ghostbusters' greatest flaw is their weapons. You see, in order for their proton packs to work, they need to use ectoplasm. All ghosts are made up of ectoplasm. The more they use, the less they have, leaving them weak. Slimer decides to allow himself to get shot at in order to save the Ghostbusters. As the Spectral Ghostbusters shoot, we see that they start to have a hard time standing up. When left completely drained, they couldn't even keep their forms, allowing the real Ghostbusters to bust them and trap them. Because he saved their lives, the Ghostbusters decide to keep Slimer as a pet. A funny thing is that as he's telling the story, Peter conveniently leaves out the fact that the whole thing was his fault, making him an unreliable narrator. I guess Cynthia Crawford should have interviewed the others to get the full story. The Spectral Ghostbusters have gone on to become one of the most iconic spooks on the show. They have been featured in comics, Ghostbusters the board game, and they even have their own official action figures, something most spooks never got. A freak tornado hit Central Park one day. Egon doesn't believe it's a real tornado, and his suspicions are confirmed once he gathered some PKE readings. Unfortunately, he gets too close to the tornado and is about to get sucked in. Peter and Ray try to save him, but they end up getting sucked in as well. The three Ghostbusters end up in a place called Boo York. A ghost version of New York, Boo York has everything that New York has. Tall buildings, the Statue of Liberty, and of course Ghostbusters. Excuse me, I meant to say People Busters. The People Busters are similar to the spectral Ghostbusters from the episode Citizen Ghost. Both are ghost versions of the Ghostbusters, and both want to eliminate them. There are, of course, differences between the two. The first difference is their reasons for wanting to eliminate the Ghostbusters. The spectral Ghostbusters want to be the Ghostbusters, but in order to do that, they need to eliminate the real Ghostbusters. The People Busters, on the other hand, have no special reason for wanting to eliminate the Ghostbusters. They are simply ghosts who bust people. How they bust people is also different. The spectral Ghostbusters have proton packs that would likely kill anyone who gets hit by the streams. The People Busters use green slime, similar to the slime blowers from Ghostbusters 2. The slime is harmless, but it is able to trap the Ghostbusters. The People Busters also have their own containment unit, which they keep many of Boo York's accidental visitors, like Amelia Earhart and Jimmy Hoffa. It's also a surprisingly pleasant place to stay. I can think of worse places to be trapped at. The main differences are their appearance. The spectral Ghostbusters just look like ghost versions of the Ghostbusters, with their original uniforms and proton packs. The People Busters, however, have their own unique look. People Buster Egon is a skeleton with a long face, red eyes, baggy clothes with a hole in the side and the arm. He also has a tentacle as part of his hair that can actually eat a fly. That must come in handy during picnics. I should also mention that Egon's picture is on their No People logo. I guess Boo York hates Egon. People Buster Peter is a zombie with yellow eyes and legs that don't seem to support his body. People Buster Ray is similar to the Frankenstein monster, in that he is patched up with different body parts. He has a hand for a foot, glowing red eyes, and he's extremely fat. He is so fat that the zipper on his uniform doesn't go up. It's interesting that the animators decided to make him so fat. Ray in the early episodes was fat, but at this point in the show, he had slimmed down. Maybe People Buster Ray hadn't slimmed down yet. As for People Buster Winston, now is the time to address the elephant in the room. There is no People Buster Winston. Much like the posters for the first movie, Winston wasn't included. Why? One explanation would be because Winston didn't go to Boo York with the others, but that's immediately disproven when we see Janine at the People Buster headquarters. Another explanation is that People Buster Winston is on vacation. The final and more likely explanation is that People Buster Winston doesn't exist yet in this timeline. There's also no People Buster Slimer, unless that octopus thing in the fridge is supposed to be him. While Flipside has always been my favorite episode, it's always bugged me that there was no People Buster Winston. Apparently, it bugged other fans. as there have been a lot of fan art of what he would have looked like. IDW did a storyline where the Ghostbusters encountered demon versions of themselves called the Collectors. While they're technically not the People Busters, the Collectors do share their appearance. There's even a Collector Winston. He sure looks demonic, doesn't he? For a while, this was the closest we got to a People Buster Winston. Until Ghostbusters the board game came out. The game has extended packs you can get, including one with the People Busters. And guess what? Winston is among them. He looks exactly how I always pictured him, with those yellow eyes, purple skin, and skinny body. The one we have to thank is Ghostbusters comic artist Dan Schoenen. Thank you, Dan Schoenen, for giving us People Buster Winston. Catching ghosts can be a difficult job, depending on how strong the ghost is. Finding them is never really a problem with the trusted PKE meter. Now, imagine if the PKE meter fails to pick up a ghost you know is there. How do you find it? Especially if it can change its appearance. This is the problem the Ghostbusters ran into when they visited the home of Miss Campbell. Although the ghost left a big mess, they failed to detect it, leading them to believe that there is no ghost. They assure Miss Campbell that there is no ghost, and they head back to the headquarters. They are right about one thing. There is no longer any ghost at the home of Miss Campbell. For the ghost, known as a metamorph, decided to hitch a ride with the Ghostbusters. Once our heroes discover the metamorph, or a copycat, Egon initiates a lockdown of the firehouse, meaning it can't escape. That's the good news. The bad news, they still have to find it. In a way, this is like a horror movie, being trapped somewhere, in this case the firehouse, and not knowing when something is going to pop out and scare you, or worse, kill you. Lucky for the Ghostbusters, the copycat is just interested in causing trouble. That doesn't mean it can't cause harm. How can they find a creature that can change into anything? Well, the copycat always changes itself into anything it sees. So, all they have to do is look for two of any object. There are many shape-shifting creatures in fiction. Clayface from Batman and Pennywise the Clown from It being the most famous examples. What separates the copycat from the others is that we never learn what it looks like. In my opinion, it makes the copycat more interesting. Another problem is this. If they find the copycat, how do they trap it? Once it takes the form of, say, a hamburger, it's technically not a ghost. As I said, we never learned its true form, but it changed itself into Slimer. Don't worry about the Ghostbusters trapping the wrong ghost, for a copycat is never exactly like the original.